go. All right, so first thing I get to do is, Mom, I made it. So anybody that knows me knows that I have a little bit of a sense of humor, and I think sense of humor is good. It helps you relax. And so the purpose of today is, obviously a lot of you know me, know where I come from, know where I work, know my family, know my friends, softball teammates. Yeah, go softball, North American Fellowship. Our kids play together. And so, you know that. And then you also know there was a time, not too long ago, 2 years ago, 2 years and 4 months ago, that my wife and I and our siblings, we experienced a pretty traumatic change in our life. And now, while a lot of you know the big picture events, obviously Jamie being diagnosed with extensive small cell lung cancer, Brittany passing away in a car accident, you don't know the lead up, right? The lead up, the in between, and the afterward. And there's the ongoing. And we never know that. And it's interesting, like, we look at somebody, I'm going to use a couple names because I know them. Jared went through this. Jared did go through that. Or David went through this, David go through that. But nobody ever knows what happened before that. Nobody ever knows what they're going through after it. And those are actually the most challenging times. The easiest part is what's happened. Okay, yeah, it hurts, it's hard. But for the people that are involved, it's the things that you think up to the lead up, and it's the things that you're still living with afterwards. So that's what I hope that you hear in my story today, is more of just not the big picture, not the big events, but all the small things that we endured in the beginning, in between, and afterwards. Also, one last note before I start. I travel to Idaho a lot, about 4 or 5 times a year. A lot of people here know that. I do some business in Idaho for my job, plus we have some recreational cabins, hunting cabins, and so we go down there and we work on those, and it's all horseback. We actually use a helicopter to fly the materials in and work on them. I have some pictures of those because I want to share with people. When they say, "Where are you going, John?" I said, "Going to Idaho to work on cabins." They're like, "What are you talking about? How are you getting material in there?" "Well, we fly it in with a helicopter." "What do you mean? How can you fly materials in and build a cabin in deep woods?" Well, I have some pictures. And this started, I left on September 22nd, 2019. From the time of Jamie having cancer, through that week and a few other things, and I'll go into the details, to the day Brittany passed away, that following Saturday, and to the day that I actually rose from my knees on Sunday, was around 8 days. But I would say that it was 7. It was 7 days of something that changed our lives forever. Now, anybody that follows the Bible, or has maybe been in a sermon about 7's a pretty popular number. Does anybody know how many times it's listed in the Bible? 735 times. Okay, 54 times in Revelations. So I don't know, I don't believe in coincidence for something in my life to go 7 days straight and then be so significant in the Bible. It's just another, I feel, another thing that lines up with what taking place. And there's a lot of those things that happened through that week. You know, when I looked back on it, like, man, why was this in place for when this happened? Why was this here when this happened? But when we first start thinking about it, we don't think about those things. But everything was already there for me. I just couldn't see it, and now I do. So, all right. So I'll go back to the beginning. So this is a Sunday, September 22nd, 2019. Around 6 a.m., a co-worker of mine, he's worked at Parker Buildings where I work he's probably been there for 10 years. He's usually the one that always goes with me. Him and I go, we hike in. So Mel, why don't you show the distance that we go to where we park our rigs. So we drive to this location, we park our trucks, and then we hike down into the cabin. So as you, back one, or, yep. So it's 8 hours and 57 minutes to where we park our trucks. If you go to the next one, Mel, that's the hike in. So right here is where we hike. That elevation is where we park our truck is 7,000 foot elevation right there. We walk down, and we walk down those switchbacks. By the time we get down to that 12 Deep Creek, that is down to, it's roughly 4450 foot of elevation. So it's roughly around a 2,500 foot elevation drop. And then as you go down the creek, you come up. The first creek that goes down next to the cabin, the little squares, the cabin, that is called Hetty Creek. That cabin has been there for over 100 years, 120 years now. And then the next creek over, that is called Trail Creek. So that's our route. We go down, the first creek we cross is called Copper Creek. And that's an old mining creek, there's no mine there. And then you go down, you go around the switchbacks, and you hike down there. That's 4.5 miles. It's a 2,600 foot elevation drop. And then you go up probably about 750 back up to the cabin. So when you come back out, is the fun part. That's what you have to walk up. Okay, because it's mostly all downhill until you get to the Deep Creek, then it's kind of leveled out as you see there at the map there. So that's what I do. For a lot of people that know, when I go to Idaho, that's the hike that I make in and out. Sometimes we do have horses that take us out, but I don't ever count on it because usually I use those for the older guys or the old guys, whoever's down there. So we would be working down there, and usually we go about four days. The owner of the property is named John Turnbull. John Turnbull is the owner of Parker Buildings, and I've worked for him for about 19 years here in Hubbard. So we got there roughly around 7:30 on Sunday afternoon. The next day on September 23rd, which is the Monday, we worked all day and then had some dinner. So Monday we worked all day and we had some dinner. We were standing around the fire about 8:30 p.m. on Monday. A man arrived with a headlamp, which is unusual in the backcountry. Okay, if a guy was out in the backcountry with a headlamp walking around, it would either be because he's in trouble or he's hunting. But at that time it was not hunting season. So I kind of bumped John. I said, John, hey, there's a guy coming up the trail. So he grabs his revolver. We're out in the middle there should be nobody back there. We're in a national forest. Well, it turns out it's a friend of his son. His name is Brandon Burgess. And I've never met Brandon, but he's a really good guy. Come to find out, and I talk to him occasionally. He's also had some struggles through his life with his wife, health issues. So we've become pretty good friends over the years on telephone because he lives in Elgin, Oregon. So he came walking up there, and he walks up to the fire. So I'm standing here. There's Nicholas by me, and then there's another guy named Tony Catherine standing there, he's a friend of the owner. He's helping. And then we got John Turnbull, and then we got Brandon standing here. And he said, "I'm here for Jonathan Willis." And I'm standing right here, and John's here, and Brandon's there. And I said, I'm just like this. I don't know what he wants, but I'm out here. You ain't gonna take me anywhere. So if you walk 4.5 miles to ask me for me, back in my day, that meant you run. And so he goes, "I'm here for Jonathan Willis." And John points to me. He goes, "There's Jonathan right now." And I said, "What's going on?" He said, "I'm here to take you out." And I said, "Take me out? What do you mean?" He goes, "There's been a family emergency and they need to get you out here." And I said, well, family emergency, that could be a real run thing. So automatically, you can only imagine, you're 4.5 miles backcountry, it's 8:30, it's dark, it's chilly, I'm like, I don't know, I lost my mind. At this point, prayer or anything is far from my mind. I'm switched on to human instinct, okay? What is wrong with my family? And we have no cell service there. And I've encouraged my friend, my boss, my mentor, get a satellite phone. Satellite phone, satellite phone. If we get injured down here, it's going to be a long way out of here, or you're going to have to dig a hole for me. And he has one, but even then, it's still not a very good source of getting a hold of somebody. So I ran down to our cabin that we were staying in, and I grabbed my keys, my wallet, and my phone, and just a couple basics, the clothes on my back, and I leave everything else behind. We go back to the campfire. We stand around the campfire, and John Turnbull says a prayer, and he just asks that everybody is well. He gives us a safe trip, and we get to the top of the mountain, and we figure out what's going on. But we get cell service up there. Tony Catherine, you can ride, back on the other picture, you can ride a four-wheeler down to a certain part. It probably cuts off about a mile, about a mile and a quarter of the trail. So Tony's like, here, he gave me the keys, like, here, Jonathan, you can take the four-wheeler, just leave it up by my truck, and I'll go up there and take it and load it up later, because you can't leave stuff up there because it's so far away, anybody can come up there and mess with it. Plus, he's actually had the tires chewed off by bears several times. So he stashes it. I said, okay, thanks, Tony. And I grabbed the keys, and we took off. Brandon and I started to hike. It was dark, slightly chilly. The creek crossings are mostly uphill. The hike was tough, and not only was I wore out from hiking in the day before, but we worked all day. And then, of course, the ideas through my head. And it's over a 3,000 foot elevation and difference, 25 to 3,000 plus or minus. My trail here is just an estimation. I've never actually recorded it. So anybody that's made these kind of hikes knows that it's hard to breathe. It's hard to breathe you're here and you're here 2,500 to 3,000 elevation down and up. It's not easy, especially for a valley boy like me. 300 to 500 foot elevation all day long. So Brandon, though, on the other hand, he's 6'2", and 2/3 of his body is legs. Okay, where I'm 5'8" and half. So if that, and so we went for it, and I tried to keep up with Brandon as long as I could, to a point where I couldn't even breathe. My lungs burned so bad, I couldn't breathe. I just bend over. I'm like, oh, Lord, give me help. And at the same time, I got these thoughts running through my head. What's going on? What's going on at home? Is it my mom? Is it, I didn't even expect anybody. Actually, it was just more my mom, because, at that time, she was the oldest monarch that was still around. My dad had passed away, so I'm thinking my mom, something's wrong with my mom. I tell Brandon, we get going, I said, Brandon, we got to stop, man. I got to take a breath. I got to take a break. I can't breathe no more. We got to stop. Brandon said, John, go ahead. You go ahead of me, I'll follow you, follow your pace. He was doing the best to encourage me. I asked the Lord out loud several times to give me more air. I need more air. We got up to where the four-wheeler was supposed to be, according to Tony, but we were having troubles finding it. We walked back and forth down the trail, shining our flashlights, and we only had two, maybe. I think Brandon had a headlamp, I had a headlamp, and then we had our handheld flashlights. And I didn't have no backpack, no nothing, just my coat on me. And there was a lightweight coat too, so it was pretty cold. And we're walking back and forth, looking for it, and we can't find anything. And so Brandon and I we had a discussion about, well, should we just keep hiking? We're burning time here, just walking back and forth down the trail, back and forth. We're not talking just from here to the parking lot. We're talking about like from here to the next school. We're going back and forth, and the trail's going like this. And sometimes we even got separated. I'm yelling for Brandon, where you at? And because at that time, you're in the middle of the woods. I didn't have a pistol on me or nothing, so I'm kind of freaked out too a little bit. I can't find a bike. I don't have no gun. I have Brandon, and I got the thought in my head, and I'm thinking, what? I started to get frustrated. But I knew how much time it would save us. So I said, Brandon, we got to stop, man. And I just said, let's stop a second. Let's just take a few seconds. And I said, Lord, please tell us where this four-wheeler is. Tell us where this four-wheeler is. I said, Brandon, let's try it one more time. We walked a little bit around, and sure enough, I started side-hilling up this hill, and I'm shining my light, and I'm looking down low now, because the four-wheeler's only this tall, so I'm looking down low, and sure enough, I catch this small glimpse of reflection, like you'd see on the side of the highway or something, just a small glimpse. So I ran over to it, and I pulled a couple branches off, and there it was. And I said, Brandon, come on, I got it. And you wouldn't have been able to find this thing during the day. He had that thing so covered up, I couldn't believe it. And I gave him words after I came back into it next time. I said, you almost costed me time versus saved me time. And he laughs about it. Tony's a good guy. And So we jumped on the quad, we headed up the hill. We got to the top of the hill about 10 p.m. where we parked the trucks. And I know this even today, that has been the fastest trip I've ever done up a trail, that type of trail. And I know today why that is. You know, the Lord gave me the breath I needed to make it up there. And Brandon had a little cell service. We were able to call my wife, Jamie, to see what was going on. Mackenzie, our oldest daughter, answered the phone, and she said Mom was in the hospital. I asked, what's going on? She said Mom went to the doctor because of some severe headaches she was having. She actually had those a couple of days before I left. I told her if they keep going, go to the doctor. She was being reluctant, stubborn. And so I asked what's going on. She said Mom went to the doctor because of severe headaches she was having, and they did a CAT scan. The doctor said that she's seen some tumors in her head. I felt sick to my stomach. I said, can I talk to her? Now, as many as you know, I asked way more questions than that she could even respond to. And if you know me, you know, I mean, that's just who I am. It's like, why this, why that? Pastor Jim, why are you saying this? What is that? You know, I have no problems asking questions. Jamie came back and said, I'm okay. Go and stay and finish your work at the cabin. The guys need you. I replied, no way, I'm coming home. I love you, and I will see you soon. Now, remind you, I was 8 hours away. I had already been working all day and made a 4.5-mile hike the day before. There's two ways to come down off that mountain. One way is the route that we showed you earlier is to go to Weiser, head north on 95. It brings you into a town called Council, and then you head northeast to a small town called Cooper, which is an amazing town. The population is 12. They have an amazing 4th of July parade. It's all side-by-sides and motorcycles. And it's a great town, great town. If you want a small town to live in, that's the one to go to. It was population 8. They crossed it out and edged in 12. So Cooper, Idaho, great people, and you got to drive real slow through there because they will shoot out your tires. And, no joke. It's they're serious business up there. And so I knew that route. That's the route I always took. But there is another route. It's called Kleinschmidt Grade. And so when you leave our parking, you would go down. You know, if you're heading down, you would head down this direction towards Cooper, or you get up on top of Saddle Mountain, or you go down to Kleinschmidt Grade. I've always been told by John that Kleinschmidt Grade was a terrible, terrible route. But he can tell me things all the time, and I don't necessarily believe him. But sometimes I go with him, sometimes I don't. Typical man, typical young man. When I want to listen, I listen. When I don't want to, I don't. Right? That's kind of typical. And I told Brandon, look, I never took Kleinschmidt grade, so I'm not comfortable for what the turns we're going to go into, and it's dark and it's dry, so I know it's going to be dusty. It was dusty when we went up a couple days back on our normal route, and Brandon's just like, John, it's faster, way faster. And I said, okay, Brandon. I said, let's do it. So we headed down Kleinschmidt Grade, and John Turnbull wasn't too far off. It was a terrible route. It was a rough way on a normal day, let alone a dark, but we made it down. And what's going on back there? Come on, Dan. Anyways, so we made it to Baker City. So usually we'd come out to Weiser and hit 84 and head west, but this particular route takes us to Baker City. And we pulled over at a service station, and I thanked Brandon for everything that he had done. And I gave him a hug, and I hit the road northwest on 84 towards Portland. Jamie was initially scanned at Oregon City and then was moved to Emmanuel. Was it Emmanuel? Emmanuel Hospital in Portland. So I had to make it from up on top of the mountain at 10:15 to Portland, and the route said it would take 7.5 hours, I believe, or 7 hours and 45 minutes. I think I made it in 6.5 hours. 6.5 hours. But it was not an easy trip. I was tired. And I had prayed the Lord to give me strength to make it to Jamie and keep her safe until then. I made a couple of stops for coffee or anything that would help me stay awake, but it would only last for a little bit. I would pray for some more power, just asking the Lord for more energy, more energy, more energy, and then stop and stop and stop. But finally I made it. It was around 5:30, 6 o'clock on September the 24th, which is a Tuesday, and it felt like a long time. The first thing I asked when I went into that hospital room, I said, "What's going on?" Not hello, not hi. What's going on? Jamie said the doctors didn't know yet, and they were running some blood work and some tests. After several scans, they mentioned seeing something in her lungs, and they would need to do a biopsy. I asked the doctor, "What about the tumors?" He said that he believed that possibly they would be connected to the same health issue, but he needed more time. It would take several days for the results after they performed these tests, but they needed to do the biopsy so Jamie authorized to move forward with the additional testing, so they did the biopsy. On Wednesday, September 25th, around 11:30, we were hoping to be able to leave the hospital and go home and wait for the results, but to our surprise, the doctor came in and said he had news on the biopsy. The doctor said, "I want to be straightforward with you. This is hard, okay, because this was a pretty tough thing to be in a room with a doctor and your wife, someone that you love so much that you've given your life to and made a commitment in front of the Lord that you love her and you'll take care of her for the rest of your life." He said, "You have extensive small cell lung cancer, and that the lung cancer has metastasized to your head, and you most likely would not have survived for another 2 months." Now that's the doctor, and they have their own theories. My wife and I looked at each other. I will never forget that look. It felt like I was punched in the gut. I can only imagine what she felt. The doctor said she would need to start radiation as soon as possible for the tumors in her head and follow with chemo. And also, I forgot completely to show those cabin pictures. So go ahead and just rotate through those. And start the radiation on the tumors in her head as soon as before the chemo. Jamie was then released, and as you can imagine, what it was like leaving in the car ride home. It was very quiet. It was very quiet. When we got home, I called family and friends over so we could talk about Jamie's diagnosis and what would be next. You know, the kid's mother. What she had, what we do, and what it meant not to overreact, or what we need to do. And I said we need to have hope and believe that this will all work out. We need to pray. Now, a side note here, while this had been all taking place, Ashley, you could go and show that picture of Jamie when she was going through chemo. That's Jamie when she was going through chemo. When this was all happening, so we got home on Wednesday, Thursday we hung around, so Friday the family started coming over. And at that time, my son-in-law, my Ashley daughter and her son-in-law Alvin were staying with us. They were staying in our motorhome out front of our property. She was pregnant and due at any time. But they were living in Whidbey Island, Washington, but they came to be with us because of the circumstances. So Friday, September 27th, approximately 9:30 p.m., her daughter was born, a beautiful little girl named Emery. There she is, that's Emery. She's a cutie. And so here we went through this, I'm in the woods, and I'm this, and I'm coming home, and Jamie's got this, and then all of a sudden here comes Friday, and Friday night, now there's a baby. So we got this cancer thing going on, we got this newborn in the house, and we got all this commotion going on, so there was some sad feelings and happy feelings, and I know for Jamie that's probably what lifted her a huge amount, because she loves the kids, she loves the grandkids, and she would do anything for them. So if there was anything we needed more that day, that week for her, that probably made a huge impact. So on the following day, Saturday the 28th, they got released from the hospital, and we decided to have a family get-together and eat some food, considering all the things that had happened within the past week. The day went great, and I believe the Lord's presence was with us. It was good. Family started to leave, and some of the kids left. Ashley and her husband were staying with us and for the weekend in the motorhome. Our daughter, Brittany, had asked if she could go and visit a friend in Silverton, Oregon. Her friend lives about 25 minutes away. We said, okay, be home at 10:30. It's a pretty common curfew that we had for her. She usually most of the time went with it. At least that I know. The only way I wouldn't know is if I fell asleep before she got home. Usually I'd stay on the couch until 10:30, but sometimes I'd fall asleep on the couch. Jamie and I were exhausted, so we went to bed. Around 11:30, I hear this knock on the front door that woke me up. I thought maybe it was one of the kids, so I ignored it. They could go to the back door. Then I hear the knock again. Then the dog started to bark, so I got up and opened the door, and it was a state trooper and a local Woodburn police officer. What do you think the first thoughts in my mind are? I'm thinking, what are these guys doing here? Nothing else, nothing to do with my family. What are you doing here on my front door, my doorstep when I'm trying to sleep? And nothing comes good of being woke up at a dead of a sleep. It just doesn't feel that way to me anyways. They asked, could they come inside? I asked them why. What is this about? They asked me, can we come inside again? I said, you haven't answered my first question. I said, what do you need to come in for? The state trooper said, we need to come in and speak inside. I said, I reluctant. I caved. I said, okay, come in. By then, Jamie had got up, came in the living room. We sat down with the state trooper and they started asking us questions. They asked us questions. Do you have a daughter named Brittany Willis? Yes. Does she live with you? Yes. How old is she? 16. What color hair is she? It's brown, but it's dyed black. What school does she attend? North Marion. When did she leave the house? Around what time? Around 7 p.m. Did she look and seem okay? Yes. What was she wearing when she left? Jeans, a sweater, and a beanie cap, which I still have today. The one she was wearing when she was in her accident. It has a hole in the location where she was. I said, what's going on here? Is she in some kind of trouble? And that's when I heard the hardest news I've ever heard in my life. The state trooper said, at 8:07, your daughter rolled her vehicle over and was ejected from it and died instantly on the scene. She's deceased. She's deceased. I asked where? 1 mile down from her friend's house. I asked, was her friend in the car? Yes, she was. She was transported to the local hospital with minor injuries, and that's all they could tell us. Jamie and I could not believe what we just had heard. All that had happened in the past week, now this. We were in shock. We were in shock. I just hung my head between my legs with my hands over my face, asking God, why? Why? While Jamie's saying, is this real? Is this serious? Is this real? We had made so many changes in our life. Why? Why our beautiful 16-year-old girl? She was not perfect, but no kid is. But a girl that was never into major trouble, a healthy young teenage girl. She was starting to serve in the church, kids' classes, would help anybody in need. A kid that played sports like softball, track, volleyball, and cheerleading, an average of 3 to 3.5 GPA grades, was always eager to work and try something different. One of my best friends. One of my best friends. I spent a lot of time with Brittany. She was actually one of the neighborhood kids in our group, my group of friends, because I'm younger, so I had one of the first kids of all my friends, so like she became the kid of everybody. All my friends considered her their first kid until they had their own. So she was a big part of our circle of life. But more, that's the hard part, right? That was what you guys know, that's what happened. But it didn't stop there. What came next was the hardest thing ever. It was the dark thoughts. It was the thoughts that crept into my mind that almost instantly, like a light switch. The pain hurt so bad. I considered, why do I even want to live? What if I just quit and end it now? Is anybody going to miss it? Anybody going to miss me? Do I want to live anymore without my firstborn daughter? My firstborn daughter. And it didn't stop there either. Satan put hundreds of thoughts through my mind to a point where I couldn't even see in front of me. It was like I was blind, like I just blacked out. Everything I felt like slow motion. I was sitting on the couch while Jamie kept saying John over and over and over, like if she was looking for me. I couldn't even talk. It's like the tongue was right out of my mouth. I asked God for his help, but I couldn't feel him or hear him, like he abandoned me. The time that I needed him, he abandoned me. I could only hear evilness telling me he could help me, and that I knew several ways of taking this pain away. Several ways. Asking me, why are you calling out to God? For what reason? Your wife has cancer. He let your daughter die. God provides you with nothing but pain and commands. I give you the pleasures here on earth, the ones you have enjoyed once before. Give up. Go back to your old ways. You can do whatever you want. You want to live. You want to feel yourself with no spiritual conscience, no moral consequences, no rules. Feel yourself with your most great earthly desires. Be honest with you. With all the things that happen, that sounded like the only way. That following God wasn't a viable option for me. I felt like I had done too many wrongs in my life. It seemed like the easier road, the one I've already been on before, the one I knew. But I wouldn't let it happen. I pushed back. I kept asking, why? Why, God? Please. Please help me. Why are you punishing me? Where are you? Are my sins so deep that you will strip me of everything I love? And this lasted for hours and hours and hours. But it only felt like minutes. But then something truly amazing happened. A moment came. My mind went from all those dark thoughts to thoughts of light and future. I could see my wife. I could fully see and hear my family and friends that were there. And I didn't even know. I mean, I was so channeled, I didn't even know who was there. When I finally could see, there was 8, 9, 10 people surrounding me. I didn't even know. I didn't even know what was going on. I had thoughts of great things. I have a life now. The life in which I had asked God for forgiveness. I asked him for that. So that's why I was questioning. But I felt that sense of comfort. It came. And something started telling me inside, I will heal your heart in time. If you continue to trust and have faith in me, I love you. You have work to do. Pick yourself up, show your faith in me, and you will be mine forever, for eternity. You will have real strength, strength only given by me. Now, I have read some of the Bible. I've listened to pastors' quotes on some of these words, these truths from the Bible. But did I really ever experience something like this 100%? I did that day. I did that week. So I know they're true today. I can stand up here and tell you I experienced this. I experienced it. It will be something I'll probably never be able to really explain to any human or any person, unless they go through it themselves or believe before it happens. If you have experienced this yourself, then you do know what I'm talking about today. You do know. But if you haven't, be prepared for it. Be prepared. Because we will all go through a struggle. And what I'm telling you today is the only way you'll survive it. So I got up, I started making calls, and I moved forward, not backwards. Believe me, there's days that are harder than others, but I just go back to his words. I love you, and you are mine. This has changed my life and my family's life forever in more ways than one. Since these events, Jamie and I have made commitments to do our best to serve our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. We both have been baptized. My mom, Sherry Willis, gave her life to the Lord and has been baptized before she was passed away in 2020, which majority of you know. My sister, Sheena Willis, gave her life to the Lord and has been baptized. Jamie's mom, Sandy Carter, is continuing her mission on learning about the gospel and that relationship with Jesus. And hopefully other countless lives, this story will help people and believe in God's power. I will continue to do my best to obey God for his healing, his love, and his new life he has given me. I praise and thank God for the 16 amazing years we had with Brittany. I praise and I thank God for the healing he has been giving to Jamie and that it continues. I praise and thank God for my family, my friends, and all the other blessings we have received from him. I will be delighted in the day when I make it to heaven and I say, not why, but thank you. Thank you. My prayer is that the people in our lives see that same love and that grace and want it too. Our family's faith was and is still being tested with these trials and tribulations. Jamie's still fighting cancer and is doing well. She has some good days and bad days, but she's tough. We are still learning how to wake up every day of our life with the feeling of losing a young child. But we know God has his hand on us, and we will live for his kingdom and spreading our testimonies in life publicly and about our trust into our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. I share this with you to show you two things. Even though I believed in God, when times are tough, do we still believe? I kind of felt like I almost didn't. But maybe evilness just is able to overpower God. So that's why it's important that we really practice and learn and use each other to bring ourselves to the most highest possible knowledge about God so we can combat this evilness. So that way, when these times come upon us, that we still have that faith that we need to make it through it. See, it's only through the power of Jesus Christ that can we get through the most difficult times in life. If we believe in him, he will help us get through these times, these hard times. The good ones and the everyday in-between ones. Now you maybe ask yourself, why do you say good times, John? Well, because when times are good, we become fleshly. God must be at the top, not just when we need him, but at all times. It helps remind us of our past decisions and where we have came from. Also, later we found out that Brittany's friend would physically be okay. She walked away with a 3/4 inch cut that tucked some stitches above her eye. No other injuries. We are so relieved to hear that news, and we're thankful and continue to pray for her and her family that God is healing the emotional pain that she may be faced with every day. To having a friend, to losing a friend right next to you. I can only imagine. At the end of the day, we are not perfect people, and we will make mistakes. We will experience difficult times. And it doesn't have to be a situation like this. It can be anything. But that's why we need each other. There were several people that helped us through this, and they still are. So I thank you. I look out there, I thank a lot of you that have supported our family and that have been there since it started. And it's also a reminder, when I talk about in between, you know, and it's kind of, we've talked about it, social media, right? Something happens, everybody goes on, I'm sorry for your loss, I'm sorry for your loss, I'm sorry for your loss, but then they never hear from you again. You truly realize who's in your corner and when you're not when you go through something like this. And vice versa. Because it's really easy for us to say, I'm sorry for your loss, and then I turn around and walk down my own road. Nobody was affected in my life. So why should I care about that person? I care about him, I love him. Until I walk through the door. Do you continue to pray for that person? Do you continue to still text them or offer them assistance or help? So, with all those things being said, as a church, let's spread God's word. And let's, most importantly, let's show our faith. Show our faith that He can heal the smallest things in our lives, from maybe your power of water going out and you're freaking out, or such a thing as a death of a child or a loved one, or a financial issue, that if you believe, He will provide. Now, it may not be instantly like the genie in the lamp, but it will come. It will come. And I know that. And if anybody ever needs anything from our family, all you got to do is ask. If you're going through a tough time, and this relates to it anyway, or just, and it doesn't have to be, like I said, the circumstances. I was always told that when you're going through something tough, find the person that's been through it the hardest. And they're the ones that'll get you through it. So if there's anything we can ever do, we're here for you, and we appreciate everything that people here have done for us. And so with that being said, that's just a small testimony of something that we've been through. And we appreciate everything. And I will say thank you on behalf of the Willis family. That's Jonathan, Jamie, Mackenzie, the oldest daughter, Ashley, Jason, he's not here today, Brittany, deceased on September 28th of 2019, and our youngest, Rachel. And all the other ones that are in between their grandkids and son-in-laws and stuff like that. You guys you're loved too. So, all right.